Okay, we've got a mage against us. We need to make sure against the mage that we keep our health high. We did get first turn, so I'm not too happy about that. Now it doesn't really matter if I use my ooze this early in the game, just because we know mages do not have any weapons. I am keeping my mind vision to make sure we can copy a card from him. Because what it looks like right now is that we don't have any early game. Usually a mind vision does give me a decent early game. I'd rather have the mind vision for later in the game to make sure we can check out what he could potentially have in his hand to play against me. Let's say greetings. Since we can't play anything this turn, you can also just keep this mind vision, but we only have one card that we could play early game. We did get an ogre and we did get a nova, which are a lot further in the game. So for now we'll just use our mind vision. We'll copy a card from my opponent's hand. We copied a polymorph. Okay, that's actually quite amazing. Polymorph, I personally think, is one of the best mage cards. It transforms a minion into a 1/1 sheep, so at least we can deal with any strong creature he could potentially summon, or creature that has to die as soon as possible. So we summon our ooze to put up some early pressure. Since it has 2 health, his fire blast won't be enough to take it out. Now he could fire blast it for a single turn and then take it out the next turn. But he decides to use one of his frost bolts, deals 3 damage to her character and freezes it. I'm actually happy with that. I'd rather have that happen than him using the fire blast. We still don't have any lower cost cards that we could play, so we're having a really bad start, but I'm still going to play my cleric. Now this is not the best play you could do, because a cleric does give a friendly minion +1 attack and 1 health, but I want to keep that pressure on the field, because I know if we reach the end game we will be able to take out that mage with all the control cards that we have. Our next draw, once again, we draw a card that we cannot use this early game, destroys a minion of an attack of 5 or more. Now an Acolyte of Pain, whenever this minion takes damage, draw a card. I could polymorph it, make sure he doesn't card draw, but right now I have no problem with him drawing 1 single card. But I need to make sure that I take it out and not ignore it. Because what he could do, because the Acolyte of Pain, whenever this minion takes damage, draw a card, he could use a Fire Blast to tag up his own Acolyte of Pain and draw multiple cards like that. So we need to make sure he doesn't do that. He does have 8 cards in his hand, so he does still have card advantage. Mages have many ways to take out my creatures, so we need to be very careful. He decides to go for an Iron Fur Grizzly. There's 2 options that I could do here. I could use my polymorph, make it a 1/1 sheep, or I could trade it. But what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to summon my Shield Master. Oh, actually, I don't know. Should we wait a turn or should we take it out? I personally think we should take it out. Make sure he doesn't have any type of cards to play against me. If I take it out and it leaves this creature alive as only creature on the field, he might use his polymorph. Hopefully he uses his polymorph to take out my Shield Master. I'd be really happy with that. He's thinking about it, because I know one of his early cards are the polymorphs. So he is thinking about using it. I'm really praying he does. We do know he's limited to only 2 polymorphs in his deck, so if he uses 1 now he won't be able to use... he will be able to use 1 more later, and that's it. So the earlier we take care of those creatures, the better. Now he summoned an Azure Drake. He knows it would survive against my Shield Master. Also the Azure Drake gives him 1 spell damage and card draw, so that's actually an amazing card. We could polymorph it, but since I just top decked a Shattered Sun Cleric, I can actually use that to buff up my Shield Master to give it 4 damage, which is enough to take out his Azure Drake, and now heal my Shield Master to 4 health. He can't take care of these creatures unless he uses a Flame Strike. I think that's the only AoE that does 4 damage, yeah. Or you would have to use his polymorphs, but I'm fine with that. He might actually use a polymorph now that I buffed up this Shield Master. He might find it a good target for the polymorph. But Flame Strike is still 1 turn away. He could also just wait for that a single turn and take 7 damage. We'll have to see. But if he does decide to wait a turn, I'm actually going to summon my ogre. Well, I could summon my ogre, or I could just wait and heal up my shield master, make sure it will survive a flame strike, and since we can heal it up to 6 health, and a flame strike is limited to 4 damage. Okay. He decides to go for a mana worm instead. Mana worm, whenever you cast a spell, gain +1 attack. And then use the blizzard. This way he knows next turn he will be able to use a fire blast to take out my Shattered Sun Cleric and the mana worm to take out my shield master. Now what we can do, however, is we could do summon our Northshire Cleric.
Is someone injured?
This Northshire Cleric, whenever a minion is healed, draw a card. We will then use our Holy Nova to heal both our creatures, get 2 card draw because of this card, and make sure that my creatures won't die by his skills. Now if he had a flame strike, he will probably use it right now. These are 3 pretty strong targets, and a flame strike would kill everything and also would buff up his mana worm. Okay, so he did decide to go for a flame strike. His mana worm is a 3/1 creature. It's still not scary enough for me. Now if I summon my ogre, he will 100% use his polymorph. So instead, I'm going to go for a Nomis Inventor, get some card draw. I know my Nomis Inventor is strong enough to take out this mana worm. I will also use a Power Word Shield to give it some extra health, so he won't be able to use his Fire Blast to take it out, but also card draw. And then we top deck the Holy Smite, which is 1 mana cost and is able to take out the worm. And with the remaining mana we are going to heal our priest. Now I wonder what he's going to do. He could use his polymorph. I hope he doesn't. I hope he does, I mean. But for his sake he shouldn't use a polymorph on such a creature. We'll see what he does. He is thinking about it. He is thinking about it. He could also use a Fireball, which is a 4 mana cost card, which deals 6 damage. That would also kill my creature. Instead, he decides to summon another Azure Drake to get the extra spell damage and card draw. Okay, so he's trying to get some board pressure on me. That's fine. We can take out both creatures quite easily. What I will do is use my Inventor to take out the Ooze, and then use my Reckless Rocketeer to finish off the other creature. This will also keep me some mana to heal up my Inventor once again to make sure it survives from a Frostbolt. I could have used the Mind Control, I could have used my Polymorph, but I think I'd rather keep those in the end game. Since the longer we stay, the more control we have, the better it will be for us, especially since he has 8 cards in his hand. I'm kind of scared that he has some stronger creatures, but luckily we have 3 cards to deal with any strong creature. Shadow Word Dad takes out a minion with 5 attack or more. Polymorph renders a creature completely useless, and Mind Control is we can actually take it over. He decides to use the Polymorph, so he has only 1 Polymorph remaining. I wonder what his next play will be. A Shattered Sun Cleric, okay, that's fine. I think I'll go for my Ogre and Yeti here, but if I do this, if I go for my Ogre and Yeti, will it be able to survive? I think if I go for both these cards, it will bait out the Flame Strike, because what will happen is he will use his Cleric to damage my Ogre, bring it down to 4, and use his Flame or Fire Blast to damage my Yeti to bring it down to 4, and he will be able to take out both creatures. Now if he uses that Flame Strike, I'll be happy, because I'd rather have it out now than later. If not, he could have the Fireballs and the other Polymorph available to take them both out. Which is also okay with me. Okay, he decides to go for Blood Mage Thomas. Spell damage increased by 1, and once this creature dies he draws a card. And then decides to go for Arcane Explosion. Interesting. Arcane Explosion normally only deals 1 damage, but because of that Blood Mage it was able to do 1 extra damage. Bringing my Yeti low enough for his Cleric to take it out. I'm not too sure why he did that in the end. To lower my my Ogre's health. This does show that he might have a Frostbolt, he might have a Flame Strike. The reason why he wants to have it on 4 is the Flame Strike, and the reason why he wants to have it on 4 that previous turn is that he could use the Fire Blast next turn to get it down to 3 and then use his Fire Blast. So first of all I'll be healing up my Ogre, making sure it's out of danger. I don't know what kind of secret that is, and I'm not willing to use my Ogre yet, because if it's a Vaporize and I attack the hero, it will take out my my Ogre straight away. So instead we're going for a Dragonling mechanic. If it ends up being a Dragonling mechanic, if it ends up being a mirror entity, it will copy a 2/4 creature, and I'm okay with that. So now we know it's not a mirror entity. It could be a counterspell or a spellbender, so let's test that out next by using our Holy Smite to finish off that creature. Okay. So if it's not that, it has to be a Vaporize or an Ice Barrier, but I'm not willing to take the risk for it being an Ice Barrier. I mean a Vaporize. So if it's a Vaporize, then yeah, it would take out my Ogre. So we'll wait 1 turn, make sure to use our Dragonling mechanic next turn to see if it's a Vaporize. A Vaporize would be quite nasty, but at least we can counter it next turn. Okay, so he only went for card draw. What else are you going to do with that 8 mana? Lord of the Arena. Now we have 2 ways of dealing with that card. I don't want him to know that I have a Polymorph. We could also mind control it, which would put some extra pressure on him, but he still has that second Flame Strike, so if I mind control it, he might just use that Flame Strike next turn. I could use my Shadow Word Dead to destroy this minion, keep my mind control for later. The longer I keep my mind control, the better, because I will be able to capture creatures later on, and I'd rather have him use his spells for now, before he takes out my creatures that I end up mind controlling. So first we use our Shadow Word Dead to take out the what's it called, the Lord of the Arena. We'll then use our Dragonling mechanic to test out the secret. It ends up being a Vaporize, so that's what I was afraid of. I'm actually happy that that happened. We then use our Ogre to attack the hero straight and summon a second Ogre to get some extra pressure on the field. Now if he has a Fireball and a Polymorph in his hand, he will use them. He will use the Fireball to take out my Ogre and Polymorph the other one, and then use his Novus Engineer or the Fire Blast to take it out. Okay. He goes for Arcane Missiles, hoping to lower my Ogres low enough to use his Flame Strike. At least that's what I assume. He did get one down to 5 health, which means if he uses a Fire Blast this turn, he could lower its health to 4 and then use a Flame Strike. Instead he decides to go for a Fireball to take out my other Ogre. And there goes his second Polymorph. Okay. So he used 1 Fireball and 1 Polymorph. I think in total he used now 2 Polymorphs and 1 single Fireball. So he has 1 more Fireball in his deck. That's fine. We are not going to play anything, because if I would play my Wolf Rider right now, I wouldn't get that much value out of it. It would only deal 3 damage to the hero. It's not really worth it to take out the Engineer. Now if he summons anything crazy, we have 3 ways to deal with it. 2 Mind Controls and a Polymorph. Okay. He decides to go for a Booty Bay card and a Water Elemental. But before we do anything here, since we just drawn a Mind Vision, we're going to copy one of his cards, see what he has in his hand remaining. We copy a coin. Oh my god. That's like the worst thing. Why does he still have his coin available? Okay, so let's mind control his Booty Bay guard. This will make sure to deal 5 damage against the water elemental, dropping it at 1. We could still have a Holy Nova. I think we only used 1. I'm not too sure. So if we draw another Holy Nova, we should be able to clear everything on the board. He could also use both creatures, but I think he will just use the water elemental and the fire blast. Okay. Afterwards he goes for an auctioneer. This is actually quite amazing to have. The auctioneer is able to draw a card every time he uses a spell. So I don't want him to get card draw. We need to make sure that he doesn't get any advantage on me, so we'll mind control the auctioneer. We will then use a power word shield to buff up the auctioneer to make sure it does survive against the creatures. Oh my god, that card draw. So the power word shield draws a card for us, and the special effect of the auctioneer draws another card for us. We do get a Shadow Word Pain, but we don't have enough mana to do that. So we'll use a coin to get more card draw. Then use our Shadow Word Pain to destroy the water elemental, which will get us another card draw. I think that's that mind control had a lot of value. We are getting quite low on our card draws, so we need to be very careful. I mean, quite low on our deck cards. If that run starts running out, we will start taking damage for every card that I'm missing. But luckily he's also only at 6 cards remaining in his deck. But right now we have a big advantage. We have a lot of cards to play against him. He decides to use a Flame Strike to take out the auctioneer. It was very important for him to take out the auctioneer. For my side of this, because I don't want to draw all my cards. But luckily that was his second Flame Strike, so he has no more Flame Strikes remaining. I will use my second Word of Pain to take out the Sorcerer's Apprentice and then summon my Berserker. Do I also go for the Grizzly? We do know he doesn't have any Flame Strikes remaining. We also know he could have potentially a Blizzard, but a Blizzard, my Grizzly would survive against it, so let's do that. So if he had any charge creatures, it would have to go through my Grizzly. If he uses his Fireball, which will cost him 4 mana, he will be able to take out my Berserker with a Fire Blast. But I'm fine with that. Okay, so he decides to go for a Mirror Image. It summons 2 taunts. I think that's a Blizzard. Is it? Why would he lower my Grizzly's health by 1? I don't know. I honestly don't know. But for now, let's just take out both creatures. There's no reason for me to use a Holy Nova. Yet, at least. We'll heal up our Grizzly to make sure it doesn't die next turn. Maybe he just wanted me to think that he was that he has a Blizzard ready. Okay, there goes his second Fireball, which will kill my Berserker with a Fire Blast. He only has 1 card remaining in his hand. Or isn't that the coin? Wait, I think that's the coin, isn't it? Because we mind visioned the coin earlier. I think that is the coin. Okay, so then we're safely to DPS him, since if it's the coin... Why is he keeping that coin for this long? I don't understand.
What to do? What to do?
Maybe he just wants me to think he might have a potentially good card in there. We'll see. We'll see. I think it's pretty much GG right now. Only 3 cards remaining. Okay, we just drawn our last card. I'm actually going to polymorph the Shield Master because we need to do as much DPS as we can. We won't summon our ooze yet, because he has only used one blizzard and he might have a second blizzard ready. Luckily we can still deal with any strong creatures, we can deal with any mass summons, so it should still be fine. He decides to summon a Spellbreaker and silence my taunt. It's not going to help him. It's not going to help him. That's for sure. Okay. We should still survive for a while. Can we finish off the player? This is 7 damage, this is 10 damage. Yeah, we won.